everybody. Welcome back to another great episode of the Red, White, and You Show with yours truly, the military medium. Today, friends, I have with me Lisa Kipps-Brown, and she's here to talk to us today about Racing for Heroes. Lisa, welcome to the Red, White, and You Show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, I'm excited to have you on. It was really cool because we were chatting a little bit before we came live talking about weather and everything else, but we were I was sharing a little bit about my connection to racing, I guess. But when I saw it, obviously we're always looking for new guests, folks that are doing great things for military and veterans. But share with us about Racing for Heroes. This is such a fascinating organization.
Yeah, it really is. Racing for Heroes is started by Mike Evok, who is a retired Green Beret. And the way I got involved with them, actually, my client is Colin Garrett. He's a NASCAR Xfinity Series driver. And I've been working with him since the end of 2018. And right after I brought him on as a client, Racing for Heroes called and wanted me to develop a national awareness campaign. Long story short, instead of bringing them on as a paying client, I got Colin to let me roll them into what I'm doing with him. And we've been promoting them pro bono through the NASCAR team for 2 years now. But what they do is they do motorsports therapy. So that's what most people only know about that. But they provide free mental and physical health therapy. They provide free job training and placement. It's awesome. They do everything from light therapy and hyperbaric chamber treatments to just all the cutting edge treatments, as well as consulting. And they have social workers and so forth on staff. So it's a really cool organization, and we're proud to promote them.
Right. Well, that's very cool. That's a very cool, and understand those treatments are costly, but they're also very much you know groundbreaking, doing great things.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I want to share is the aspect of raising money, because it does take money to support these veterans,
Yeah.
and doing that through. And now one of the things I know was, like, if you had like a um kind of a veteran based business, or a business that wanted to sponsor one of the cars, as far as getting your business on the kind of a placard, if you will, on
Mhm.
the car itself. Kind of bring us through the little bit of the, I guess, is it a crowdfunding aspect?
Yeah,
Or
right now we're crowdfunding. Typically, with NASCAR teams, big companies come in, they pay huge amounts of money. I mean, you're talking, a couple $100,000 to be in the car for one race
right.
in a small spot. So what we do is we have philanthropists that help support us, and then we are able to bring in smaller businesses for a lot less money. So right now we're crowdfunding for Talladega. We have philanthropists who have put up everything but $50,000. They've put up over
Wow.
$130,000. So we have to raise $50,000 now. The race is in April, and we have till the end of this month to come up with the
Right.
money. But to put it in perspective, we have spots on the car starting at $3,500, which is
Wow.
crazy cheap. So we're really excited about it. But we also have, for people who don't have that much money, but they want to participate, we also have rewards that we're going to have a virtual gala with Colin and the founder of Racing for Heroes, Mike Evott, and some other special ops people. And then we have some other guests who are going to be coming in that I can't give the
Sure,
names for
sure.
yet. But I want to explain, because people don't understand. A lot of times people ask Mike, well, why shouldn't I just give the money to you? Why should I give it to the team? The
Right.
fact is that we're giving them this national platform. And what they had wanted
Mhm.
me to develop the national awareness campaign was so that people would understand the treatments that they do have available. And in order to do that, you have to be able to get the word out. So by us promoting them on the car, we're giving them this national platform that normally they would have to pay a lot of money for advertising, or, whatever. But we also raise money for them. So last year, when we crowdfunded for Daytona, we actually beat our goal of $200,000. It was the first crowdfunder any of us had ever run.
Wow.
But we beat the goal and we were able to pay for a guy to have stem cell treatments for multiple sclerosis. He had
Oh,
been exposed to chemicals while on duty in Germany, and that caused his multiple sclerosis. I didn't even know that could happen. I mean, my son's
yeah.
godmother has MS, but I didn't know that something like chemical exposure could cause it. But so that one thing, we paid for the stem cell treatments. The first month he was able to stand up. The second month he could take a few steps. The third month he could walk across the room. And in the fall, he shared an MRI. He had just gone for his 6 month treatment or 6 month checkup. And so they reviewed the MRI that he had had 6 months before, which couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 months after he started these treatments
Sure.
because of the timing. And he had no new lesions. Some of the lesions had lessened in size and some were totally gone. And so
Wow.
we already knew physically how much progress he had made, but it was even mind blowing to be able to know that about the MRI. So those are the kind of things that we're doing. And Mike will tell you, Mike Evok says, giving $10 to the crowdfunder is like giving them $100 because we're the force multiplier for them.
Sure, sure. Wow, that is just incredible, Lisa. Talking about, obviously that's the stem cell research that they're doing, of course, is groundbreaking, but I mean, just an awesome story of how much that helped that one veteran, right?
Yeah.
Um, and which is interesting is the sheer magnitude of veterans that need help that,
Yeah.
shall we say, fall through the cracks.
Mhm.
And understand that, we're not bashing anybody. That's not what this show's
Yeah,
about.
exactly.
But understand that sometimes folks that go to traditional or seek traditional care, maybe through the VA or other
Mhm.
things, just don't receive maybe the level of care
Yeah.
or care that they need, right?
Mhm.
And it's a big mountain to climb, so to speak, but it's great to hear stories like this of organizations such as Racing for Heroes, you know, taking on such something like that. Let me ask you, why NASCAR? Do you know why it was started? Like, I understand that, it
Yeah.
was a army veteran,
Yeah,
but
well, so he realized he used to race years ago, when he was a kid. And then when he got out, and he has PTSD and some other
sure,
injuries, and he went to the doctor, and the doctor put him in a racing simulator. Mike's like, okay, why am I in a racing simulator? And the doctor explained that using your mind like that for racing channels the anxiety and everything else in a way that helps lessen the PTSD. And he realized, oh my gosh, it did help. So he got back into racing. He started getting other people into racing and kind of accidentally started the nonprofit. But most of them aren't racing in NASCAR. They're like racing dirt track and,
sure.
things like that. But so my client is a NASCAR driver, Colin Garrett, and both of his brothers are active duty Army.
Oh,
My
wow.
husband is retired Navy, 26 years Navy. He's also a
Wow.
Vietnam veteran. He was there 3 years. So when I went out to meet with Racing for Heroes a couple of years ago to talk about the national awareness campaign, now mind you, all I knew was that they do the racing. And I thought that was great. I thought it was more of a taking people out for an experience to get their mind off of their problems and build community. So when I got there and I realized all these other treatments, it blew my mind. I mean, the racing is kind of like the first step, a way to get people in the door, because even if they don't race, they can be around other people and hang out and laugh and hand somebody a wrench. I'm not going to race, but it's just fun to hang out with people. And I have to tell you, I was literally in tears when I saw everything that they do because I knew that our transition would have been so much easier when my husband retired if he had had somewhere like that to hang out with, or
Yeah.
some place like that to hang out at. And, he didn't have traumatic brain injury or anything like that. But as you know, it's a huge adjustment. You go from
Yeah.
feeling like you're making a difference to who cares? So it touched me really personally for that reason, but also because my grandfather killed himself when I was 5, and my grandmother tried to when I was 3, or 3 years later when I was 8. So I know firsthand the trauma that the loved ones experience, and I also know firsthand the generations, the ripple effect.
Yeah.
So that's when I didn't tell them I was going to do this. I was like, well, let me think about it. Let me come up with pricing because they wanted to hire me. But before I even got out of the parking lot, I called Colin's dad, Ron Garrett, and I said, hey, I know you're paying me to help market Colin. I'm really supposed to be bringing in sponsors, but would you please promote them for free as part of what I'm doing? And they readily said, absolutely.
Right.
And so that's how it got started in NASCAR. But
Wow.
that's also the background of the racing, how Mike's racing got pulled into this.
Sure. Isn't that an interesting dynamic that, if you take um, trauma out of it, so many veterans serving, men and women serving in the military for however many years and getting out,
Yeah.
even if it's after, a couple years, you
Hmm.
almost, for a lot of people, it feels like you lose a sense of self, right? You're identifying as a
Yes.
sailor, a soldier, a Marine, whatever, for so long, and you live in such a structured,
Yeah.
regimented lifestyle that when you get out, you don't even know who you are anymore, right?
Right. And when you go into most civilian type work environments, it just doesn't feel important. People
Right.
there's not the camaraderie. You miss that part of
Mm.
feeling like you're part of something bigger than yourself.
Yep.
And I mean, my husband struggled for years, and he enlisted when he was 17 during Vietnam because he figured he'd be drafted, and didn't expect to make it a career, but ended up staying in 26 years. So he did 13 enlisted, 13 commission. But when he came out, he was only what, 41 or whatever, and 40, I guess. I can't even remember. But this was 1990. So
Yep.
but when he came out, if you think about it, literally way more than half of his life
Yep.
had been the military, and he had never had to do a resume. He had his master's degree by then, but he'd never had to go out into the civilian workforce and look for a job. That's part of it. But secondly, is translating your skills
Yep.
to what the same things are.
Right.
And it's not just for you, it's for also the management in businesses. They don't understand how it
Right.
fits. So it's really hard. And one of the guys that, aside from the treatments there, they were telling me about this one guy that came in and he was just hanging out. He was really quiet when they were working on cars, wasn't really talking into anybody, looked disheveled, like maybe he pulled his clothes out of the hamper or whatever, which I do half the time, but but
It's Corona. It's okay.
yeah,
It's
that's right.
allowed.
But Shaggy, he just looked unkempt, and they
Sure.
felt like he probably didn't usually look like that, but hair, beard, and everything. And he wasn't really talking with anybody, but they started being like, "Hey, buddy, will you hand me the wrench?" And
Sure.
so he's just there, but they were getting him involved. He
Yeah.
came back the next day. He had shaved his beard, he had had his hair cut, he had on clean clothes. And that doesn't mean you can't have long hair and a beard and everything
Right.
if
Right.
that's what you want, but it was a sign of his whatever, depression or seclusion or
Yeah.
whatever. And so he may not have actually needed treatments. I don't know if he did or not, but just the camaraderie helped
Right.
pull him out of his funk.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, Lisa, because think about, in this period of time that we're in dealing with the COVID-19, right? We have been for, good Lord, almost a year, right?
Crazy, yeah.
And yeah, and so many people, veterans aside, I mean, But you think about folks dealing with depression
Yeah.
and sometimes like feeling like they're not seen or not heard, or they
Mhm.
don't really yet there's part of them that wants to be part of something but yet they don't.
Yeah.
And so like you said, like, yeah, sometimes we pull our clothes off the floor and just throw it back on. "Nah, I'm not
Yeah.
going to see anybody," or, "Hey, I'm just doing a Zoom today." And then,
Yeah.
I can have business on top and party on the bottom, right?
Yeah.
But, and that stuff's okay, but the thing is a simple act of, like you said, "Hey, buddy, can you hand me that
Yeah.
wrench?" And that was like an olive branch
It
reaching out
is.
saying, "I see you." And it wasn't a big production. It was like, "Hey, can you just hand me
Yeah.
a wrench?" And he did that, and
Mhm.
he felt, for whatever reason, then for somebody that is going through depression
Mhm.
to and whether he was or wasn't, but for somebody that's dealing with depression to take a shower, to
Mhm.
shave, to maybe get, to do okay, we had a little freezing, but
Sorry, yeah, I
yeah,
didn't know if that was me or you,
that
but I
that's
couldn't.
all right. And
Okay,
I'll
yeah,
just repeat that, but
okay.
what I'm saying is for somebody that is dealing with depression
Mhm.
to go and, like you were sharing about that veteran, whether or not, he was dealing with depression, I guess we
Mhm.
don't really know, but
Right.
saying just to put it on, if you will, clean clothes, to take a shower and shave or whatever it is,
Mhm.
just to show, hey, I've been seen,
Yeah.
the inclusion. I think that's just huge.
The human connection means
Yes.
so much, and we don't realize it because we're around people all the time, but you
Right.
can be in a room of 100 people and still be lonely and
Yes.
feel alone, and it begins to make you feel inhuman. And the other thing is that a lot of people, probably most people, are embarrassed to reach out. And I would say probably even more so people in the military because, hey, it's like buck up, you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you do what it takes to get the mission done. And then, you don't want to be like, well, I don't even know what to do next. So
Right.
just the fact of reaching out to people and making them you and like you said, it doesn't have to be a big production, but I'll tell you, there's a video on Racing for Heroes site that y'all can go watch if you want. But there's a friend of Mike's who talks on that video very openly about being in this really dark place, and he literally had his gun out and was seconds away from pulling the trigger, and his phone rang, and it was Mike.
Oh,
And
wow.
he picked it up, and of course, Mike had no idea. And he goes, "Hey, buddy, let's go racing." And sorry, it brings me to
No,
tears, but you never know. You never know what's going
no.
on in somebody's life, and you never know when that one picking up the phone
Yeah.
and calling somebody. And I tell people, even if you're not going to pick up the phone and call somebody, send them a voice message
Yeah.
instead of a text message, because hearing that voice, it just means a lot to
It
people.
does. It
Sorry.
no, that's fine. Yeah, absolutely, right? And we're such social creatures, really
Yeah.
we are. Even those of us that, saying I don't want to people today,
Yeah.
sometimes it's okay to not want to really hang out with a lot of people, but you know, at the end of the day though, it's still nice to get somebody to reach out and connect. And it's
Yeah.
so beautiful to hear that those stories. And I think it's a great reminder if there's somebody sitting out there that maybe has, I call them God moments, right?
Mhm.
And if you get somebody's name or just a thought like, God, that's so weird. I haven't thought about them in
Yeah.
15, 20 years, 30 years. Reach out to them if you're still in connection with them, or,
Mhm.
or maybe even an email, whatever, and saying, I don't know, your name just popped up and I just reaching out to say, that's all you have to do. Like, hey, buddy, can you hand me the wrench? Right. It
That's
doesn't have
right.
to be a big production. And all of a sudden you talk about seconds away from taking his life and saying, hey, buddy, you want to go racing?
Yeah.
And, you
And
know,
I have to say also, a lot of people who are kind of maybe forgotten or unseen people are caregivers. And there are a lot
Yeah.
of people in the military community who are caregivers, and that can be so isolating. I know firsthand
Right.
because we cared for my father-in-law with Alzheimer's for over 7 years
Oh, wow.
while we had little kids. And then right after our kids left home, my mother was diagnosed, and I was her primary caregiver for 4 years, lived with her. And it's so isolating because nobody understands what you're going through, and people, they're kind of afraid to say anything. They don't know what to say. And so, and I mean, mine was Alzheimer's, but a caregiver is a caregiver. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what you're doing. And so what happens is the person who is the caregiver ends up becoming more and more isolated
Yep.
because people stop coming around. And it's not because they don't care, it's usually because they don't know what to say or do. So if you know anybody like that, I always say, don't ask what you can do, just tell them what you're going to do. Like, hey, I'm going to bring you dinner tonight or something like
Yep.
that. Because most caregivers are the type, if you say, what can I do? They're not going to tell you
Eh,
anything. I was
right.
like that
And
because
99.9% of people
Mhm.
are very like, no, don't bother. Or
Yeah.
they, I just think of, even my own mother or
Yeah.
other folks like, their arm could be falling off and they don't want to be a burden to
Yeah.
anybody else, right? No,
That's
it's
right.
fine. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm
And
fine.
oftentimes it's the small things that would be the biggest help. But if you're a caregiver, you're not going to go, oh, well, gosh, it'd be great to have somebody wash the dishes, you know? So just that's so in reach out to anybody that you think might need help. As a matter of fact, the thing that you said about somebody crossing somebody's mind a couple of weeks ago, this person out of the blue, I thought of them,
Yeah.
and it was just like a fleeting thought. And then over the weekend, I found out that something tragic had happened in their family.
Mm,
And I was like, oh my gosh. And I'm not saying that every time
sure.
you hear somebody, but you really don't know why you're having
Right.
these thoughts. And even if there isn't anything bad, maybe it's just a reminder of, hey, you haven't talked to them in a long time, or, at
Yeah.
least let them know you care.
Yeah, just a simple reach out or whatever. Hey,
Mhm.
how's it going? And that's,
Yeah.
just, oh, it's going good. It could just be whatever. And I know there's been times in my life personally that, that's popped up or people have done that to me, which means a lot. And it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, they're not only listening to that inner voice, but more importantly,
Yeah.
reaching out to their fellow man or woman
Yeah.
and, just kind of it means that they give a shit.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah. And
it's
Colin, he takes, well, he can't right now because of COVID, but he was taking veterans to every race,
oh,
giving
wow.
Racing for Heroes tickets, and they'd be able to come into the pits and get hot passes, which means they get to stay in the pits when the race is going on. And he does things like go out to the Racing for Heroes is located at Virginia International Raceway, which is here in the county that we live in. Colin and I both live in. And so he'll go out there and like run laps with people, or when they do their open house or fundraisers, and they like, you can go pay a certain amount and shoot different guns. And he goes out there and hangs out and shoots with people. And, you know, it's just a great way to let people know that you care about them.
Right, right. Getting involved and just
Mhm.
kind of showing up and helping share
Yeah.
space. Very cool. Lisa, if folks want to maybe learn more about the crowdfunding, how they can support
Mhm.
Racing for Heroes, or if they just want to read more about that, where can
Yeah.
they do that at?
Okay, our American Dream Team.com is the National Awareness Campaign website, and that has information about the crowdfunder, how we came about. It's got links to an article in Military Families magazine, stuff like that, and also links over to Racing for Heroes. So I really would appreciate it if y'all would go check it out and at least share the crowdfunder. Totally understand if you can't donate to it, that's fine. But if you could share it, that would help us a great deal.
Absolutely. What a great cause. My guest today, Lisa Kipps-Brown, Racing for Heroes. Make sure you go out and check it. Like you said, if you can afford a few dollars to support, great. If you can't, that's fine. Just please share their crowdfunding. I can't even speak. Crowdfunding efforts. and the great work they're doing. Lisa, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an honor and a pleasure, and I'd be remiss to say if I didn't say, thank you for what you are doing, and you're helping change lives out there. So thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me and helping us spread the word.
Absolutely. Well, keep on racing.
Okay, thanks.